Hello, hello, hello. It's been a good minute since I have even thought about filming. Yes, y'all could tell, some braided, some not. Um, Baby girl is about to be 10 months in a few days. So by the time you see this, she'll be 10 months. Life has been crazy. Life has been hectic. Loving it, loving life. If you're new here, welcome. I'm technically still new here because I have not filmed in forever and a day. And yeah, I'm just going to jump right into it. Welcome to chapter 9. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my hair at the same time. I don't really care about it that much. I'm here to read my book. Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. Chapter 9, the unity of, I'm so sorry. Because if you really are new here, I am reading the Edgar Cayce Guide to Self-Healing. So yeah, and then my front cover is off. First couple pages, next couple pages, next couple pages. And in the meantime, since I've had this little lady running around now, the back cover has also come off. So that's not okay. But, you know, I'm going to work with it. And for all the book fanatics out there that's looking at this book and it's like, oh my God, you bastard. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Alrighty, so, yep, I'm going to just go ahead and take off the back cover as well because that's just gone. Okay. Chapter 9, the unity of mind and body. The basic message for the self-healer from Edgar Cayce is really the old admonition of the Greek philosopher, know thyself. To this end, we have been delineating, D as in dog, E-L-I, N as in Nancy, E-A-T-I, N as in Nancy, G. Delineating. Cool. The outline of the person as envisaged by Cayce, the master healer. For it was his contention that before we can set about establishing balance in an entity, we ought to know the components and goals of that entity. Thus far, we have considered the fundamentals of the Cayce teachings. In this chapter, we would like to stress not the components, but the unity of the entity. And even more, we would like to emphasize the levels of mind that enable us as healers to directly contact the healing forces in nature. If anyone had ever approached Edgar Cayce and asked him what field of medicine he specialized in, he would have answered that he was a holistic healer. The readings he left us obviously indicate this, for he was interested in the whole person. He delved into man's past, his present, and his future. He touched body, mind, and spirit. I'm sorry, I also looked up. I have a new phone, so I'm also testing out this camera. And I literally just turned the phone on today, so I'm also like, how does it look? Because I'm using the front-facing camera instead of the backs, and I'm actually able to keep up with how it's doing. I'm testing the waters. I'm not tech savvy. That's my boyfriend. Okay. Cayce taught that the basic cause underlying all illness was the self, and he often said that the only cause of sickness was sin, or better still, the self's departure from the road of spiritual one-ment with God. The challenge then facing the self-healer is to understand and achieve balance. So seldom is it considered by all that spirituality, mentality, and the physical being are all one, yet may indeed separate and function one without the other and at the expense of the other. Make them cooperate, make them one in their purpose. When asked what was the relationship between body, mind, and soul, Cayce responded, when the body physical lays aside the material body, that which in the physical is called the soul becomes the body of the entity, and that called the superconscious becomes the consciousness of the entity as the subconscious is to the physical body. The subconscious becomes the mind or intellect of the body. What is the relationship of mind to the physical body then? Cayce says, it is the active principle which governs man. Mind is the active force in an inanimate object. It is the spark or image of the maker. It is the spark or image of the maker. Mind, being the spark of the maker, is in control of the will, that which makes one individual when we reach the plane of man. Mind is that which reasons the impressions from the senses as they manifest before the individual. The mind always manifests through one of the senses, just as the psychic force, I said this before in a previous video. I feel like some of these words were butchered. Like, whoever edited, no disrespect to the editor, I'm happy you made this book, but I feel like you also, like, didn't, like, proofread all of it. Because this literally says psychic. And I really want to say psychic. Just as the psychic force is a manifestation of the soul and spirit, the mind is a manifestation of the physical. With the division of mind and force, we see why individuals in the physical plane become misunderstood or misrepresented. They do not reach the same manifestation as other individuals. Realizing that the entity is one and that mind and body exert influences one on another, Cayce tells us that we ought to ever keep the mental and spiritual in that direct accord with the higher forces innate in the entity, not warring against that known and felt within self as the correct thing to do. As we find, while there are physical disturbances with this body, these arise as much from the mental attitudes that were in the beginning taken as poses and have grown to become rather conditions that are of the self, or as habits as requirements that have taken on those aspects from the mental standpoint that are almost or at times mental standpoint. Everything's jumbled. Or at times and under or in certain environments become possessions. For in its final analysis in the physical and mental activities of a body, everything's just blurring. I'm so sorry, it's my eyeballs. The body mentally is continually meeting itself, and that the body mentally has done about construct or creative forces within the body itself. Then, as we find to meet the needs of the conditions in this body, it must or will require that which will enable the body to either become determined within itself to meet its own self and spiritual reaction, or such a change of environment that will require the mental and physical reactions of the body to be such as to enable the body mentally and physically to induce that within the physical reactions to take possession in the place of or to replace those habit-forming conditions in the mental as to rid the body of these conditions. So in our study of Cayce's image of man, we see that there is a physical body, a mental body, a soul body. They are one, as if the Trinity, yet these may find a path of expression that is particular and special unto themselves. The body finds its own level in its own growth and development. The mind, through anger, may make the body do that which is contrary to the better feelings of the body. It may demand a change in the environment, the surroundings, even though this is the contrary to the laws of environment of hereditary forces that are part and parcel of the alien vital and every manifested body with the spirit or the soul of the individual. Then, through pressure upon some part of the anatomy, the natural flow of the mental body could be disengaged, causing some influence on the soul, which could manifest as a mental disturbance. What we see then again is that the body and the mind influence one another because there is a unity that exists between them. Cayce brings this further when he says that we are physically and mentally what we eat and what we think. Know that there is the influence of body, of mind, of soul. These are manifested in the material plane as an individual entity, just as the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit is an individual entity. Just as time and space and patience are the individual manifestation of that spirit body in the experience of man. I'm sorry, I'm also looking at my cat. I have an elderly cat. She is 15 and she likes to lay on my feet. She wants to lay on my lap, but she likes to also dig her nails into my lap, so she's laying at my feet. This is all very important for the self-healer, for as Cayce so often tells us, the triune of body, mind, and soul cannot be separated in the consideration of health. Is not the agony of the soul reflected in bodily functions? Can mental activity be separated from the body pattern? A graphic example of this unity is found in the Cayce readings. Someone asked why another person was unable to sit still and study. Cayce answered, a physical disturbance often becomes the condition, and yet being under those adverse influences, the desires of the body to be active, to be creative in its own self, override same. And combined with those pressures, the hindrances become rather in the body being quiet or still. These are not faults, but rather than use them as stepping stones for the better approach. Have the physical corrections made, but do not attempt to insist that there must be quiet, for it merely creates then that subjugation of the will. And the will once broken, the will once disturbed to that, it becomes rather of a defiance. For each soul, each mind, each entity is endowed with its choice. And the choice is the result of the application of self and relationships to that which is its ideal, and finds manifestation in what individuals call habit or subconscious activity. Yet it has its inception in that of choice. What the self-healer must derive from the emphasis Cayce places on the unity of man is simply this. There is a world out there that our limited senses dimly perceive. What is reality? What is more real, a person reading a book, a human being of muscle, bone, skin, who breathes, moves within and without, with organs pulsating, blood flowing, with sensory apparatus that can contact colors, sounds, words, feeling the texture of a page in a book? Is this what reality is all about? Or as Cayce insists, is there a reality that goes much deeper and is more extensive? Is there a spirit out there that brought all flesh and even this page into existence? Cayce tells us that there is in truth a far greater reality that surrounds us, one that we seldom even pay attention to. This universal spiritual reality can be thought of as the essence of things unseen, of thoughts unknown, of mysteries unrevealed. Also, there is the body mental, which is that directing influence of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual emotions and manifestations of the body, or the way, the manner in which conduct is related to self, to individuals, as well as to things, conditions, and circumstances. While the mind may not be seen by the physical senses, it can be sensed by others. That is, others may sense the conclusions that have been drawn by the body of an individual, by the manner in which such an individual conducts himself in relationship to things, conditions, or people. Then there is the body, spiritual or soul body, that eternal something that is invisible. It is only visible to that consciousness in which the individual entity in patience becomes aware of its relationships to the mental and the physical being. I'm so sorry about sniffing all the time. All of these then are one in an entity. Cayce readings. The body is responsible for coordinating the triune entity, and so the self-healer must consider first and foremost the state of whatever body he chooses to work on. But he cannot remain at that level, even though his perceptions do not focus on the total reality. For what is unseen or untouchable is still real. We find that these ailments arose as a result of what might be called occupational disturbances. Not enough in the sun, not enough of hard work, plenty of brain work, but the body is supposed to coordinate the spiritual, mental, and physical. The readings of Edgar Cayce place a continued emphasis on 7 spiritual centers which are located in the body and which underscore the unity of the body, mind, and spirit. These centers are closely linked with the major endocrine glands. Those who are familiar with Eastern philosophies know these centers as chakras. These centers, according to Cayce, act as contacts or relay points between our spiritual body and the physical body we presently manifest as it expresses itself in flesh, mind, and emotion. The 7 centers are the pituitary, pineal gland, thyroid, thymus, adrenals, cells of Leydig, and the gonads. Cayce cites these chakras because he wants to emphasize that it is the harmony of the triune of body, mind, and soul towards the purpose of being a help and assistance and aid to one another. Stating the relationship between body, mind, and soul, Cayce says in one reading, when the body physical lays aside the material body, that which in the physical is called the soul becomes the body of the entity, and that called the superconscious becomes the consciousness of the entity, as the subconscious is to the physical body. The subconscious becomes the mind or intellect of the body after death. The body, of course, is always referred to as a temple, but so is the soul. Each soul is a temple of the living God. Thus, be more mindful of the body, not for the body's sake, that it may be a better channel for manifesting spiritual truths. Cayce wants us to act at all times as aware and conscious of the interrelationships of mind and body. He doesn't want us to spoil the body, to live without discipline. From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, and thoughts are deed, and each builds to himself that which is to be glorification or edification or resentment built in self. Then act in the way which is befitting and responds in yourself. But keep a normal balance, not by being an extremist in any direction, whether in diet, exercise, spirituality, or mentality, but in all. Let there be a coordinates influence. For every phase of the physical, mental, and spiritual life is dependent upon the other. They are as one as the Father God is one. Someone asked Cayce if there is any inclination in the body to cooperate and correct conditions that are not coordinate. It's just given. It is not the real desire of the body to commit self to the inclination. There is the desire then to cooperate. Hence, there has been given the way to overcome through the physical manner and the attitudes. I just wanted to see if it was still recording. Then let the body cooperate by putting behind self those things that easily beset, and look to the strength and the power of the Christ consciousness, the light within, and be able to say no and mean it. Some have said that Cayce was a rigorist and that he did not countenance frivolity or just plain fun. But such was hardly the case. He knew of the interaction of the triune in the entity, and he constantly sought coordination and not disruption. But he also loved life and its joys. He was constructive and not negative. It's up to the entity then, in its experience and its associations with others, and its dealing with opportunity with others, with conditions and circumstances, to use all in a constructive way and manner. And when there are those periods when disturbance and disappointments come, to have in the spiritual ideals the mental and spiritual purposes that which will keep the body from seeking only gratifying of physical appetites. Cayce really believed that good health depends upon a person's intention. He quotes scripture when he says, "If thine eye be single, then thy whole body is full of light." But he does not want us to be unbridled, for this causes imbalance. He wants us to be in control and not letting the body do just what it pleases. When it pleases, he feels that confusion is the only result when we ignore the spiritual and dwell merely on the physical plane. The self-healer is given by Cayce some suggestions as to how to keep the body, mind, and spirit harmonized. He speaks of a sixth sense that can either make us or break us. And those of us who are intent on healing would do well to heed his words. The sixth sense, as it may be termed for consideration here, partakes of the accompanying entity that is ever on guard before the throne of the Creator itself, the Christ consciousness, and is that which may be trained or submerged or left to its own initiative until it makes war with self in some manner or of expression, which must show itself in a material world as in disease or temper, or that we call the blues or the grouches, or any form that may receive either in the waking state or in the sleep state, as in nightmares, that has enabled the brain in its activity to become so changed or altered as to respond much in the manner as does a string tuned that vibrates a certain sound in the manner in which it is strung or played upon. Hey, old lady. What the self-healer must attempt to accomplish is a harmony between all the parts of the triune person. This was Cayce's goal in life, and as discipline of his healing philosophy ought to be ours. So seldom is it considered by all that spirituality, mentality, and the physical being are all one, yet may indeed separate and function one without the other, and at the expense of the other, make them cooperate, make them one in their purpose. A person then who wishes to take advantage of the known unity of man ought to decide what he will obey the laws of the universe as manifested in the unity of the totality of being. We ought also to realize that there are two pathways to traverse if one would comply with the dictates of creation and effectively utilize the unity of man. And those two pathways are patience and truth. Let's look first at Cayce's ideas on the laws of the universe, and from there we will touch upon his understandings of patience and truth. One of the more important laws of the universe, and which the self-healer can utilize for his own benefit, for better or worse, is the law of expectancy. Without this law, there can be little or no motivation. A great example of this law in action was evident when someone asked Cayce if there was a chance of bad health coming to her in March. He answered as follows: if you are looking for it, you can have it in February. If you want to skip March, skip it. You'll have it in June. If you want to skip June, don't have it at all this year. Another important law is the law of believing. The big secret to self-healing is not in the expecting alone, but in the expecting and believing. Each individual is in reality the manifestation of the individual's conception of the impelling force from within, whether it be termed or called God, nature, universal forces, natural powers, or whatnot. And then, of course, there is the law of karma, which we discussed in the previous chapter. Responsibility arises from the compliance of this law, knowing that we reap what we sow. Cause and effect to many are the same as karma. Karma is brought over while cause and effect may exist in the one material experience only. There are other laws of the universe, but these three especially have meaning to the self-healer. They will help him to understand how to make the most out of the unity within man and the unity of man with the universe. We must at all costs avoid going against universal laws, rather attune ourselves to them. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear to face life is the beginning of disharmony, not because it distorts the features of a pretty face, first from those that bring same, and then the seed is dissatisfaction in self and condemnation of self's position. Self-healing is the utilization of the force of law, and as such, no one in his right mind could expect to ignore the laws of the universe. We must realize that we have an influence on the force of these laws. We can use them or reject them, and in whatever way we react, we influence our own basic harmony for better or worse. When this first cause comes into man's experience in the present realm, earth, he becomes confused in that he appears to have influence upon this force or power in directing same. Certainly, much though in the manner as the reflection of light in a mirror. For Cayce, we all have the ability to influence the laws that govern the universe. We ought not put ourselves down and allow confusion to dominate us. In giving the manifestation of such a law governing relativity of all force, which does exist, we first must consider that which is called force. And that force then in its relation or the relativity of that force to all force. There were set in the beginning, as far as the concern is of this physical earth plane, those rules or laws in the relative force of those that govern the earth and the being of the earth plane, and also that same law governs the planets, stars, constellations, groups, and those that constitute the sphere, the space in which the planets move. These are one of force, and we see the manifestation of the relation of one force with And we see the manifestation of the relation of one force with another in the many various phases as is shown here in the readings. For in fact, that which to the human mind exists, in fact does not exist, for it has been in past before it is to the human mind in existence. In this, we see the law of the relations of conditions, space or time, and its relation to human mind, as is capable of obtaining information upon the earth plane from a normal force or condition. Hence, we bring the same word, relativity of force, to prove its own self, and it literally says and condition, for we have as in this. The earth in its motion is held in space by that force of attraction or detraction or gravitation or lack of gravitation in its force. So those things that do appear to have reality and their reality to the human mind have in reality passed into past conditions before they have reached the mind, for with the earth's law and its relation to other spheres has to man become a past condition. So it is reached only in the further forces, as will shows, and is given for man to understand in this developing or this evolution from sphere to sphere or from plane to plane in this condition. Hence we find to the normal mind there is no law as to relativity of force, save as the individual may apply same in the individual's needs of them. That is sufficient. The study from the human standpoint of subconscious, subliminal, psychic, soul forces is and should be the great study for the human family, for through self man will understand its maker when it understands its relation to its maker, and it will only understand that through itself, and that understanding is the knowledge as is given here in this state. I'm just gonna say it. I feel like that was, and I'm, of course, I haven't read this in years, and I have essentially just been in the matrix so long that it felt like a word salad to me. And I'm just like, I get it, but then also I feel like I'll do this on my own time, of course. I'm going to go back and read this whole, I'm just going to show you. And I know you probably like, it's backwards, or maybe it'll be forwards, who knows. But like from here literally to here was just like a absolute word salad. That's just me. Once a person understands his relationship to law and the power that comes to him from complying with law, he is in an ideal position to tap the forces of healing. Cayce, however, wants the self-healer to realize that in healing, as with everything else, a person has to exercise the virtue of patience. Patience, according to Cayce, is simply one dimension of our three-dimensional world, the other two being time and space. Cayce tells us that these three exist only in the world as we know it. For if there were no time and space, who would need patience? Cayce tells us that these three are the channels through which man, as a finite mind, may become aware of the infinite. That is precisely the desire of the self-healer. No, Phoebe, I'm sorry, baby. Look at you trying to claw me now. I don't know if you guys can hear her purring or not, but let that be a part of the ASMR if you can hear her. I'm sorry, Foo. You can't. Because you're going to scratch. No, mama. You're going to scratch me up. Nope. I'm sorry. I have to close you out. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. Yep. Nope. Yep. All right. For each phase of time, each phase of space is dependent as one atom upon another, and there is no vacuum for this, as may be indicated in the universe, is an impossibility with God. Then there is no time, there is no space when patience becomes manifested in love. It is so important to realize that as human beings, we are definitely aware of time and space. This is so as healers. The role of patience is to bring us into an awareness of the relationship. Individual personality demands that time be considered, yet know too in self that time and space are also manifestations of that universal consciousness ye know as God. In patience ye may find the relationship. In patience ye may find the relationship. Learn patience. We know that Cayce is not denying the reality of time and space, yet his linking of patience with these two is a rather unique and deep observation on his part. What he emphasizes to the healer is that without patience and without the other two, contact with the divine healer is not possible. As the individual entity finds itself body, mind, soul, so are the manifestations in the three-dimensional plane. Hence, the concept of the finite is in the realm of the cause, effect, and purpose, as in the infinite there is the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. The attaining from the mind to the infinite is through time, space, and patience. All of these phases of a human experience and mind and materiality should be considered by the entity. What we discover then is that time and space are really instruments that are given to us by God, and that patience helps us to utilize them to the ultimate. Time and space are occupied or are peoples with the elements of or spheres that become activities for souls or entities in their journey through time and space, seeking that home not built with hands but with the thoughts and with the deeds and with the manners in which we have dealt with our fellow souls, our fellow beings. The self-healer is really calling out to God. He is trying to make use of the talents God has given him so as to restore order and balance in his own life. He must be patient lest he miss the opportunity to work hand in hand with the Creator. This obviously is what Cayce is insisting on when he stresses patience. When ye call, I will hear and will answer speedily, becomes not as a tenet or as a saying, but as a living thing in thy consciousness. Thus ye find as ye interpret Father, Son, and Holy Spirit and bring it into reality, ye pass in time and space through patience into the awareness of the other consciousness, the other phases of experience of self and of those about thee. In concluding our chapter on the unity of body and mind, it is important to touch lightly upon the concept of truth as understood by Cayce, for the self-healer deals in truth, and that does not mean truth as he sees it, but rather truth as truth is. Truth for Cayce is a growing thing, and embracing the truth means that the self-healer has a greater opportunity for self-development. And what is more, truth is not static, rigid, or unyielding. Since it is growing, it is something that is really always in action. When we speak of a truth or the truth, people usually have various concepts in their minds. Someone once told a very interesting story about truth, one that bears repeating for the benefit of the self-healer. It is about 3 men of Hindustan, who went to see the elephant, but they were all blind. Are we not really, when it comes to truth, blind? Yet we want the truth and we need it to make contact with the divine healer and live our lives in balance and fruition. The healer should recall the image of the 3 blind men who went to see the elephant and try to learn something from the parable. One of these stumbled against the side of the elephant, and he said, I perceive without a doubt the elephant is very like a wall. Wasn't that true for him? Another one, as he stumbled about, found the elephant's trunk and said, I perceive with a certainty that the elephant is very like a tree. The third man, as he stumbled about, got a hold of the tail and said, I perceive the elephant is very much like a rope. What is the point? The point is that truth is not a thing. It is not quantified and materialized. It is not something that we can see, feel, touch, smell, or hear. Truth is rather something that transcends matter. It is the essence with which an individual builds his own faith, hope, and trust. In other words, truth is something spiritual. It is the essence of things which we hold before our mind's eye. When we have it, we know it. Cayce teaches us that life and its projection into this material plane has been a constant growth. Then, if we are to believe the things that have been presented to us as they are presented to us, we know that even truth itself may be a growth into that understanding which we will be able to apply in our everyday life. As self-healers, we will know the truth and it will make us free. Free of the diseases and stresses that harass us each day of our lives. Free of the unwillingness to give of ourselves in the total experience of consciousness. The truth cannot change of itself. Cayce insists on this. All the truth does is grow, and if we are not growing with it, we run the risk of deluding ourselves. What Cayce has taught us thus far about self-healing is true. What he has expressed as lived in his life is also true. The design of our world and its forces as expounded by Cayce are also true. We can take what Cayce tells us and we can say of it, this is truth, and we know that it will answer in everything or in every way what life may present to us. Thank you for joining me on this 30+ minute journey through chapter 9. I will be back shortly with chapter 10. I had the intention on filming it tonight. But also it is like almost 4 in the morning and little lady's gonna wake up in a few hours and I'm gonna try to catch some Z's. So I feel like what I'm gonna be doing, just as a heads up, throughout the day, like she takes 2 naps a day, and I think I'm gonna start filming more, I guess what you would say, more real ASMR videos with the tapping and the clicking and the clacking and that stuff. And that's not to disregard people who do ASMR or people that even actually enjoy ASMR. I just want to find a groove and stick with it. So if I can just even film 1 chapter a night in the middle of the night while she's asleep, but even film. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is I'm going to try to film twice a day. A short ASMR video with things around the house that I have, and then 1 chapter a night. I'm going to really aim for that because I feel like A, that will keep me consistent, and then B, in the long haul, that'll be good for my subscribers and to see if they want to join me on the journey of reading the book. If they don't want to hear me read and ramble like I'm doing now, and they just want to listen to some tapping noises, because my boyfriend, I actually need to drop his link to his channel in the description, because he actually is a avid listener of ASMR, like to the point where he cannot go to sleep without having ASMR on. So that, like I said, there are people such as him who need to listen to ASMR. So I want to get into that more. And I actually am going to do that in this video. I'm going to drop his channel in there just in case anybody wants to watch him as well, because he does it better. And I'm actually still learning how to properly do ASMR videos through him. Because the beginning ASMR videos that I was shooting with this book, I was actually whispering, and then I got to the point where I realized I am not a whisperer, so I'm just going to talk normally. But enough of my ramble. Please, please, please enjoy your day. Please be safe. If you live in the state of Illinois and Ohio, you know what's coming up. I live in Chicago. So these laws that are taking effect January 1st. Be careful out there, okay, guys? Please be safe. Stay healthy, stay well, stay happy as much as humanly possible through these crazy times. I love you all. Take care. Bye.